Welcome back to Finance Empire Real Life Stories. Before we jump into today's story, I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine coming home after a long, exhausting day at work. Your feet hurt, your brain feels fried, and all you want is a quiet evening in the apartment you pay for every single month. You unlock the door expecting peace, but instead, you hear loud music blasting from the living room, strangers laughing in your kitchen, and the smell of your own food cooking on the stove, even though you never touched it. Now imagine something even worse. The rent is due tomorrow, and the person responsible for half the payment suddenly stops answering your texts. That's the moment your stomach drops. That's the moment you realize this isn't just an annoying roommate situation anymore. It's a legal nightmare. Today's story is one of the most stressful real life situations we've ever covered on this channel. It's about friendship turning into manipulation, kindness turning into exploitation, and a peaceful apartment slowly transforming into a battlefield. But this story is also going to help you improve your English in a very powerful way. As always, pay close attention to the natural expressions, emotional vocabulary, conflict phrases, and real-life conversations throughout the story. These are the kinds of English phrases native speakers use during stressful situations, arguments, and difficult decisions. And trust me, this story gets intense. Because once someone stops respecting your money, your food, your space, and your peace of mind, the next thing they usually try to take is your confidence. So grab a coffee, relax, and let's step into the apartment, where one signature on a lease changed everything. The move in day felt exciting in the way only new beginnings can feel exciting. The apartment smelled faintly of fresh paint and cleaning supplies, and sunlight poured through the giant windows, overlooking the busy downtown streets below. It wasn't a luxury penthouse or anything dramatic, but to me, it felt like success. After years of struggling through tiny studio apartments and noisy roommates from random online listings, this place felt like adulthood finally arriving. The kitchen had modern countertops, the bedrooms were spacious, and the rent, while expensive, felt manageable if split between two people. That's where Julian came in. We had known each other for years. Not best friends exactly, but close enough that trust felt automatic. We had gone to concerts together, watched football games together, and complained about life over cheap takeout more times than I could count. So when he mentioned needing a place, after his previous lease ended, it seemed like perfect timing. There's no way I'd screw you over. Julian had laughed while carrying boxes up the stairs on move-in day. I'm the easiest roommate you'll ever have. I remember laughing too. That sentence would replay in my mind for months afterward, because the landlord only approved the apartment based on my credit score and income history. The lease was entirely under my name. Julian promised it didn't matter. I'll just send my half every month, he said, casually. Simple. At the time, it did sound simple. The first few days actually felt great. We ordered pizza on the floor because the dining table hadn't arrived yet. We joked about decorating the apartment. We talked about eventually upgrading to an even bigger place one day. For a brief moment, it genuinely felt like we had built something stable together. Then the tiny things started happening. At first, they seemed too small to even mention seriously. A yogurt disappeared from the fridge. Then a bottle of juice. Then an unopened bag of chips I specifically bought for work lunches vanished overnight. The first time I brought it up, Julian laughed so hard, he almost spilled his drink. Dude, relax, he said. I'll replace it. That phrase became his favorite sentence. I'll replace it. I'll pay you back. I'll get it later. I got you next time. But next time never arrived. One Tuesday night, I came home exhausted after a brutal 10-hour shift. My entire day had been built around one small reward waiting for me in the fridge: leftover chicken pasta I had cooked the night before. I opened the refrigerator door and immediately froze. The container was there but empty. Not partially eaten. Not half saved. Completely empty except for streaks of sauce smeared across the plastic bottom. Julian sat on the couch playing video games without even glancing up. I said slowly, trying to stay calm. Did you eat my dinner? Yeah, he answered casually. I was starving. That was it. No apology, no guilt. Nothing. I stared at him for several seconds waiting for some sign that he understood why I was upset. Instead, he He simply continued pressing buttons on the controller while explosions flashed across the TV screen. "You could have at least texted me," I muttered. "I said I'll get you back later," he replied. There was that word again, later. The problem was never really about the food itself. Not entirely. It was about what the behavior represented. Every missing grocery item felt like proof that the apartment was slowly becoming less mine and more his. I started noticing strange patterns. Whenever I bought expensive coffee, it disappeared twice as fast. Whenever I prepped lunches, containers mysteriously vanished. Whenever I stocked snacks for the week, they evaporated within days. So I tried creating boundaries. I bought a plastic storage bin and wrote my name across the front with a thick black marker. Inside, I placed my coffee beans, protein bars, cereal, and snacks. It felt ridiculous treating my own kitchen like a guarded warehouse. But I didn't know what else to do. The next morning, I found the lid slightly open. Half the coffee was gone. That was the moment something shifted inside me emotionally. It wasn't forgetfulness anymore. It wasn't accidental anymore. It was disrespect, and somehow, Julian always managed to make me feel guilty for bringing it up. "Bro, you're acting weird over groceries," he said one evening while grabbing another soda from the fridge. "You've become super controlling lately." Controlling. That word hit hard because part of me worried he might be right. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe adulthood just meant tolerating annoying behavior. Maybe this was normal roommate conflict. But deep down, I knew something felt wrong. The apartment no longer felt peaceful. I started mentally tracking every item in the fridge before leaving for work. I found myself rushing home to protect my own belongings. Sometimes I even avoided buying foods I loved because I knew they'd disappear before I got the chance to enjoy them. The anxiety became exhausting. And the worst part, the rent deadline was approaching. One Friday evening, I sat alone in my bedroom staring at my banking app. The automatic withdrawal for the apartment lease was scheduled in 3 days. My stomach twisted every time I thought about it. Because Julian still hadn't sent his half, not even part of it. I tried staying optimistic. Maybe he was waiting for payday. Maybe his transfer was delayed. Maybe I was stressing for nothing. But another part of me, the quieter, more honest part, already knew the truth. If someone doesn't respect your food, your personal space, or your boundaries, eventually they stop respecting your money too. Sunday night arrived heavy and tense. The apartment smelled like takeout containers and stale beer. Julian lounged across the couch watching basketball highlights while I sat at the kitchen counter pretending to scroll through my phone. In reality, I was rehearsing the conversation in my head over and over again. Finally, I spoke. "Hey, the rent withdrawal hits tomorrow morning." Julian nodded without looking away from the TV. Cool. That single word irritated me more than yelling would have. "So, are you sending your half tonight?" I asked carefully. He muted the television dramatically and leaned back against the couch cushions like a man preparing for a difficult speech. "Actually, there's been a problem with payroll at work," he said slowly. "My direct deposit got delayed because of some banking issue." I felt my heartbeat quicken immediately. What kind of banking issue? "I don't know, man," he sighed. "Something with processing delays." I hated how vague the explanation sounded. I hated how rehearsed it sounded. Most of all, I hated how powerless I suddenly felt. "The landlord doesn't care about processing delays," I replied quietly. "The full amount comes out of my account tomorrow." Julian waved his hand dismissively. "I'll get it to you by Tuesday." Relax. That word almost made me laugh. Because there's something deeply terrifying about realizing another person can destroy your financial stability while remaining completely calm about it. Tuesday arrived, no money. Wednesday arrived, still nothing. Every conversation became another excuse. My bank locked my card. My paycheck bounced back. My car needed repairs. I'm waiting on a transfer. Each explanation sounded more ridiculous than the last. Meanwhile, my savings account was draining rapidly, because I had covered the entire lease payment myself. The money I had spent years carefully building as an emergency fund suddenly started evaporating to support someone who treated responsibility like an optional hobby. And somehow, Julian still acted annoyed whenever I mentioned it. That part drove me insane. One night I walked into the apartment and found every light blazing. The television was running in the living room, even though nobody was watching it. The heater was cranked so high the apartment felt tropical. Meanwhile, I had spent the entire week skipping lunches at work, trying to recover financially. "Can you at least help keep the utility bills down?" I asked. Julian rolled his eyes dramatically. "Bro, it's just electricity. Just electricity." I stood there staring at him, wondering how two people could experience the exact same situation so differently. To me, every dollar mattered now. To him, consequences didn't exist. That night I sat alone in my bedroom calculating expenses until nearly 2 a.m. I realized something horrifying. If this continued another month, I wouldn't just lose savings. I'd risk missing future payments entirely. And because my name was the only one on the lease, all legal responsibility would fall directly onto me. Not Julian, not his excuses, not his disappearing promises. Me. And somewhere deep inside, I began understanding a painful truth most people learn too late. Sometimes the person destroying your peace isn't technically breaking into your life. Sometimes you invited them in yourself. But the real nightmare hadn't even started yet. Because within the next few days, another unexpected person would walk into the apartment and completely change the situation forever. And trust me, once that happened, things stopped feeling like a roommate problem and started feeling like a full-scale invasion. But we're going to continue that part in the next episode. Because what happened after the rent excuses, the missing food, and the unpaid bills pushed this story into an entirely different level of chaos. And if you think this situation is stressful already, you haven't seen anything yet. So if you enjoyed today's story and want to improve your English through emotional real-life situations like this, make sure you subscribe to Finance Empire Real Life Stories and turn on notifications. And tell me honestly in the comments, at what point would you have kicked Julian out? Would you still try to save the friendship? Or would you protect yourself first? I'll see you in part 2.